What is up, party people? Casey here. How's everybody doing? I hope everybody is doing well and holding up well. I'm not even going to reference the pandemic. Let's skip that part, shall we? Welcome to another episode of Tedious and Inaccessible. I'm really excited about this dish that we're going to make. We're going to make it in two parts, actually. I'll explain why in a second. But this is actually one of my... I created a list a long time ago of stuff that I thought was really complicated and really delicious and really challenging that I wanted to make. And I've knocked off a good many of them, but this one's been up there for about a year. And it is Uovo on Raviolo, which is a bad Italian pronunciation of essentially egg yolk ravioli. So there are a couple parts to it. I'm not even going to bother with the ingredients because it's incredibly straightforward. But because I got a late start in the day, we're going to make some pasta, some fresh pasta tonight, and we're going to let it rest overnight. And then we'll do the cutouts for the ravioli and the egg yolk and all the high technique stuff tomorrow. So we're just going to make some pasta tonight. It's going to be a quick segment, and away we go. So all we need is 10 ounces of all-purpose flour. A lot of times you want to use the Italian super thin and fine tip 00 or tip 00. That's not necessary for this recipe. This pasta is going to have a little more chew, a little more pull in it, so all-purpose flour is just fine. So 10 ounces, about 2 cups, and this is a predominantly egg, like an egg pasta. It's eggier than usual, and it's a 1-to-2 ratio. So we're going to do 2 whole eggs and 4 egg yolks. So all those quantities will be in the link in the recipe that I provide later. I'm doubling this recipe because if you're going to go to the trouble to make fresh pasta, hi Kelly, then I say double it because you can freeze it and eat it later or eat it all up in 1 weekend like we will probably do. So let's get started. We're going to just dump our flour out, our pre-measured flour, out onto the counter. A nice clean counter space is what you're after here. So this has been sort of sterilized nicely. I've got all my eggs and my egg yolks in here. I'm going to put in about 2 teaspoons of salt. And I'm going to go ahead and break the egg yolks up roughly. Not going to do a crazy mix, just enough to kind of get them moved around together. And that's the long and the short of it. Some people tell you to break up the eggs in the flour well. I like to do it ahead of time. All right, so we've got our flour here. Essentially, we're going to move it around so it's got a nice white space. I'm going to get my hands are nice and clean, and I'm going to start to make a well. And that is essentially, think back to 7th grade science class and making like a volcano or something of that shape, but much flatter. So the well is going to be the place that's going to store our egg yolks and eggs. And so I want it to be nice and wide. When I first started doing this kind of handmade version of making pasta, I thought it had to be a really tight circle and all my eggs would flow over. All right, that should be plenty wide enough, maybe even a little too wide. All right, so then the egg mixture goes right in the middle. Yeah, Dylan, if you want to pick up, that'd be awesome. Boom. So yeah, we don't have any overflow, which is terrific. So all we're going to do is it's going to get real messy real quick here, is get our hands in the egg mixture, and we're going to start to pull in some of the flour and incorporate it into the egg mixture as we go along. And we will, the well will break, right? Well, if you're doing a great job, it shouldn't, but I didn't do a great job. So you can kind of just incorporate it. It's supposed to be incorporated a little more slowly, but here's the great thing about doing this stuff live. You guys get to see me make mistakes and learn from them, right? So that was a pretty poor job of incorporating flour slowly into an egg mixture, but we're going to make it work anyway. So if you goof it up like I did, you can still make it work. Just trying to get as much of that flour incorporated into the eggs. All right, and we're not looking to get really focused in one area as much as grabbing all the flour from the outside and moving it around. So I'm not very interested in pressing it together and forming a dough just yet. I just want sort of an equal mixture as we move it around. All right, we'll see how that comes together. Try to get a little bit off my fingers here. Take this little bench scraper, go around and get everything kind of pushed toward the middle. So now I'm going to try to press this into a bit of a shape and have it come together. And as you're doing this for the first time, you're probably going to be curious about, wow, it's not really coming together. It feels too dry. It feels too wet. So you can always make adjustments. This particular dough is really feeling pretty dry to me. So I'm going to keep trying to compress it together. And if it doesn't sort of come together and get elastic the way I want it to, then I'm going to add some water to make an adjustment. Yeah, that's feeling like a pretty dry dough to me right now, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some water. Okay, so we're going to try to adjust this because this is feeling pretty dry. I'm just going to pour in a couple of ounces at a time. Try not to get too carried away and panicked about how it's coming together. But I am sort of compressing it together and trying to get it to shape up into something, into a ball. Again, feeling pretty dry here. I'm going to add another couple of ounces right over the top. All right, so now we've got this into a ball, and we're going to do some kneading for a good 4 or 5 minutes. And the way you knead, and I'll spare you guys watching all of that, but the way you knead essentially is you get in the ball and use the kind of this part of your palm, and you're pushing down and forward. Down and forward, folding it in over itself, and going right back to it. Down and forward, down and forward. All right, and you just keep folding it in and over itself for a good 4 or 5 minutes to get it'll start to create some of the glutinous effect, and then we're going to let it rest. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, so we're back, and our dough is in great shape. And that's excellent because I've been kneading it for about 4 or 5 minutes now. So here's what you're looking for in the dough after kneading for 4 or 5 minutes. This is pretty perfect. You can come in, Dee. You've got a nice ball, sort of leathery feeling ball here, and it's a little bit tacky. So it's sort of when I'm moving around, I can feel some dampness and some moisture on it. So that is absolutely perfect. This is what we're looking for. So then we're just going to wrap this guy up in a little bit of plastic wrap, and get it covered. And you can stop here and set it on the counter if you're looking to make pasta pretty quickly. Because the AP flour, it's pretty generous in terms of the time it needs to rest. Generous in the sense that you can get moving a lot faster. So it only needs 30 minutes on the counter, and you'll be able to start rolling it out and create shapes, etc. But I'm going to take a break and let it rest in the refrigerator overnight, which will be great, and we'll get it out tomorrow morning and start to make our pasta rounds and fill them with egg yolk. And that will be that. All right, guys, we'll see you tomorrow. What is up, party people? You should see my kid behind the camera. First of all, he's shirtless. He looks like a hayseed, so he comes by that honestly. And second of all, he just gave me the cringiest look. Welcome back, everybody, for round 2 for, oh boy, for Uovo on Raviolo, or egg yolk ravioli. Okay, the ball of pasta dough is right here. It's been out of the refrigerator for a couple of hours now and resting nicely. I've got it under a mostly damp towel to keep it moist and doing what it's supposed to do. But in the meantime, if I didn't mention, this egg yolk ravioli is going to have a couple of rings of ricotta cheese that we're going to doll up and give some extra flavor. It's going to have a couple of rings that are actually going to nestle the egg yolk. It's a technique that I stole from Serious Eats. It'll be in the link, or I'll share the link in the post. And anyway, it's a brilliant idea because A, you get a little extra fat from the cheese and flavor, and then B, you get a nice little, safety chair around your egg yolk to keep it from breaking while you're cooking it. So let's get to the point. I have 5 ounces of ricotta cheese here, which is a pretty wet, moist cheese, and we want to dry it out a bit. So I'm just going to spread it over these paper towels that I have on a pan sheet here, and I'm just kind of getting it so it's flat, nothing exciting. These are lint-free paper towels, which is important, or you can do this on kitchen towels. But in any case, you simply want to put some more towels or paper towels on top and just press a bit to get rid of some of the moisture. And that's it. We're going to let this sort of soak up for 5 minutes. Then we're going to come back, add some lemon juice, some nutmeg, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and make it tasty and get it in a pastry bag. That's it. Okay, so we've been letting the ricotta cheese get a lot of moisture out of it. And we'll plop this right into a bowl. Comes right out nicely, which is great. All right, get rid of all this. So we've got a ricotta, to which we're going to add an ounce of freshly grated Parmesan cheese, about a little over half a teaspoon of lemon juice, a generous pinch of nutmeg. I love nutmeg. So add a little more. And then we're going to season this, salt and pepper, kind of to taste. All right, and we're just going to mix this all around and incorporate all the ingredients. And now that is more flavorful than just standard ricotta on its own. All right, we've got this all mixed together for the most part. That looks pretty good. Now, I want to put this in a pastry bag with a 1/4-inch round tip, and I forgot to order that, and it's coming later. So, improvisation. Here we go. Ziploc bag. Tiny little hole cut at the end. Hopefully it's about 1/4 of an inch. We'll see how that goes when we start to pipe this out. But we want to get this into the corner of the Ziploc bag. Put that in there. Let's use this. There we go. All right. And try to jam that down in the corner without losing too much throughout the bag. I'm going to work that in. All right. Tastes good too. All right. So this is going to be our piping bag, right? Our pastry bag to pipe in the ricotta. All right. The reason why we did this first, rather than attacking our dough, is because we want to get this in the refrigerator and chilling out for a good couple of hours. So we'll throw that in here, and then we'll come back and jump into the dough. We're going to roll some dough, make some flats, and create some rounds back in a minute. So let's roll some dough. So I've got the ball of pasta dough here. I'm going to cut it in half with my bench cutter, and then I'm going to cut it in quarters. That might even wind up being a little too big. We'll see. I'm going to take my mostly damp cloth and get the rest of this pasta underneath that and protect it. Have your handy dandy flour on hand to throw on your surface and keep everything kind of well dusted as you're moving along. And I'm going to just try to shape this up into kind of an oblong piece now. Again, it's nice and leathery. It's got some really good elasticity on it, which is terrific. It's not too tacky anymore, as in wet and moist, and it's not dried out either. So pay attention for cracks and that kind of thing. You want to avoid that and make sure that you're doing this trick to avoid that. But for the most part, I'm looking for kind of an oblong, long rectangular piece to send through the pasta roller. Oh, so about the pasta roller. Here's the handy dandy KitchenAid with the handy dandy pasta roller attachment. Make sure we're on the right one there. Yep. So as you can see, I'm toggling here into different depths. So you start out at 1, which is the widest, and we're going to send this guy through 3 times on the lowest, or excuse me, widest setting, which happens to be 1. And then we'll get it down thinner and thinner. We move one at a time till we get to the second to the last setting. In my case, there's an 8, so we'll go to 7, and that's going to be 1/16 of an inch, which is exactly what we're looking for. Always be mindful of this. I've definitely screwed this up before in the sense of remembering to set it back. If you try to send a big fat piece of dough through a higher number, a thinner setting, you're going to wind up in trouble. All right, that should probably get us through. Again, I'm just trying to flatten this out so that it's going to go through easily enough without completely splintering and cracking. So I'm going to go with a pretty low number. Might even start with just a 1 to get it through. And I'm just going to start to feed it through, nice and easy, to flatten this dough out. You can hear it kind of working real slow. It's pretty thick in parts, but I'm not unhappy with what we've got. There we go. That was not bad at all. So we take a look at this. See how it's got a lot of elasticity, right? And one of the tricks you do, because again, we're going to send it through 3 times, is you go half and fold again. That's the first and only time we're going to do that. And we'll send it through. I'll flatten it out so it can get through. But this is a pretty perfect shape right now. See how it goes through. And I'll be able to speed up the speed at which we're going through here as well at some point. But now that it's at its thickest, I want to take my time and get it through. That's really nice. That's really nice. I might even send this through 4 times, but this is our shape. This is exactly what we're after. This is going to get very, very long and a little bit wider as we keep sending it through. And you'll notice there's a fair amount of manipulation that happens with folding over different quarters and whatnot, just to make sure it fits through this kind of 5.5-inch slot. But this is what we're going to do for the next, half an hour or so, is create this beautiful pasta, get it thinner, wider, down to 1/16 of an inch. And I'll see you on the other side once I have this down to that size. Spare you the boredom of watching this round after round. So back in a minute. Look at these. Yeah, that's right. Roll your eyes, Dylan. So we have some beautiful pasta here. Oh, I can tell. Look, again, you get to learn from my mistake. It's a little stuck to the counter. I should have dusted that better than I did. There, that'll save us. Anyway, I just want to hold up this pasta and look how beautiful it is. Hey, you can see it's almost translucent. This is pretty fantastic in terms of what we're after. Yeah, the flour provides a whole lot of give for you. So a light dusting goes a long way. Don't go crazy with it, but it certainly makes the pasta a little more pliable and easy to move around. And again, don't go nuts, because we want this to also not be, completely dried out. All right, so I've got these 3.5. This is actually less than perfect. You want a 3.5-inch round cookie cutter. These are closer to like 3 3/4 of an inch. Oh well, more pasta for us. So we're just going to use this to cut out our shapes. And I've not used this one before, so I don't know how well it's going to work, but we're going to find out real quick here. I'm not thrilled with the edges it created there. And I'm going to use a flat surface to pull that guy up. Yeah, so I'll definitely use that. And that might have been my own hand being a little goofy. So we've got 4 people in my family, we'll say 3 raviolis each. So we're going to go for 12. Which actually means, yeah, that's right. Okay, let's see how this one comes out. Yeah, I think if you do it more consistently and hold it around, then you won't create those edges that I did on that first one, which is what you want to do. These are looking pretty perfect. So I'm going to go through and pop these out until I have enough for 12 ravioli. And keep these under a moist towel for sure. This is definitely the part at which you want to make sure these don't dry out and crack on you. They'll be really difficult to work with. They'll be difficult to press and seal. So make sure you get these under a damp towel, which is what I'm going to do in just a minute. We'll be back. Welcome back. All right, here we go. My rounds are under here, under these mostly damp towels. So we're leaving those under there. We've got 24 of them to make 12 ravioli. I'm really thrilled. Now, in the meantime, I've got a wife who is allergic to eggs. So egg yolk ravioli, though one of my top of the list things to try to accomplish, does not work for her. So I tried to get a little creative, and I thought, what can I substitute for an egg yolk? And I started thinking protein and gently cooked protein. So I came up with shrimp. So my lovely wife's going to get a couple rounds of ricotta and really gently poached shrimp in the middle of her 3 ravioli. I think the flavors will work really well with kind of bacon flavors and parsley and lemon and shrimp. Anyway, so one of the most gentle ways, one second, Dee, one of the most gentle ways in the world that I know how to cook delicate seafood like lobster and shrimp. One of my favorite ways to cook is create something called a beurre mont. A beurre mont. Look in here, Dee. I've got 4 or 5 tablespoons of just plain old water that's come up to the boil, and I'm going to bring that really down quite low and start to add in butter slowly. And so that's with my whisk. The heat's super low, but the water was formerly quite hot and boiling. So all I'm doing is starting very slowly with a couple of tabs of butter and moving them around. And what happens is an emulsification, a bond between the water and the fats and the milk fats, etc. And you can see it's already working. See how it's like kind of a milky color? Butter, when you melt it on its own, is much more kind of yellow and saturated looking. When you have this milky color, you know you are in business on the emulsification. Now this is kind of the amazing thing. Heat's nice and low. Is you just keep adding your butter a couple at a time. And this is pretty amazing. I'm telling you, I've done it before. Dylan has seen it. Dylan, you find it quite amazing, don't you? Mm-hmm. You can add up to, with this simple emulsification, up to like 20 pounds of butter. And it will hold the bond that it is created at the beginning of this process. So all I'm going to do is keep adding butter till I get a good couple of 3 inches of liquid of beurre mont in the pot to submerge my shrimp in. And it will cook them ever so gently and get me in a perfect place. So I'm going to do all this butter and we'll come back and show you what that looks like. All right, so our beurre mont is ready. And I want to point out, it's called a beurre mont sauce. It's really more like the beginning of a sauce. I use it as more of a cooking vehicle, like I said, for gentle proteins that aren't very dense, that I want to cook slowly and carefully, not get overcooked. So it's fairly tasteless. It's obviously butter flavored. Come on over, Dee, have a look. But we've got a fair amount of that milky emulsification going, which is pretty perfect. What else do I want to say about this? Oh, it's the beginning of sauces. So you can always take a beurre mont and add different herbs and vinegar and other elements and other ingredients to make sauces from it, so it's a good base. Okay, like I said, I use it to cook protein gently, and I want to be really fussy about my shrimp and get them cooked almost all the way through, and then I'm going to put in the ravioli, and it's going to cook a little bit further. So I'm going to dump these guys in here. We were a little lazy in not adding a few more inches. Oh, they are just covered, so we weren't as lazy as I thought we were. But this is a real low temperature. This is a really good vehicle to kind of stir them around and watch them very closely. Look how they turn pink right away, but they're also not curling up into that tight little ball, and turning into rubber right away. So I'm just going to keep moving them around and watching them, and we'll pull them out in a second. So the shrimp are cooked gently, ever so gently. And the one last thing I want to say about beurre mont is it's hugely forgiving. So you make that emulsification, you can turn the heat down really, really, really low, and it'll sit around and hang out, and the sauce won't break. So I highly recommend you give this a shot. But anyway, Dylan, I know you just did this, but have a look at those guys. They are pretty beautiful. They are just under, I think they need maybe about a minute and a half to finish cooking all the way through, and that's what they're going to get when they get dumped in the boiling water. So I want them to cool, so I'm going to set them aside to cool. I'm going to get them out of the heat because I want those nice and cooled and not cooking and melting my ricotta cheese. Ricotta cheese when we put them in. So we'll be back in a minute. Hi everybody, let's do this. Let's make some magic. So we've got our rounds. I'm going to work 6 at a time. So the rounds are great. We have our ricotta mixture. As you can see, I did a couple practice rounds. They're pretty good. Dylan and I wound up cutting the bag open a little bit more, so it came out a little thicker, came out a little stringy on this side. So let's drop some eggs in, shall we? So we're going to crack these eggs. And I'm a separator who uses his hands. I don't know, I just am always more comfortable about that. Feel like I can handle things better. I'm going to drop the egg whites into this little container. My wife eats egg whites, and so she'll have those for days and days now. So I've got this nice yolk in my hand here, if I can separate that. And I'm just gonna gently slide them right in the middle. And oh my gosh, that's making me pretty happy. Dylan's got a big cheesy grin on his face too. So this is all an experiment, people. We're walking a tightrope because we're doing this live, and there could be screw-ups along the way. I can tell on the shrimp, they're much bigger than the egg yolks, so I'm probably gonna go just a touch wider. So I'm gonna rip through these, and then we'll come back and show you how we're gonna get the tops on them, and we'll go from there. Hi, we're back. Come on in. We've got a little production going. We're pretty stoked. These are 3 egg yolks. Those are 2 shrimp. And we saved one so we could do on camera, at least show you guys what the heck we're doing. But let's be honest, we need a little bit of practice. So I've got these rounds that are going on top. As you see, I just get a little brush of water going around the edges here. Yep. And then it's a little bit of tricky business, right? Going wet side down, and you want to pin them down and then get rid of air bubbles, but at the same time, obviously, you don't want to break that yolk. So I think what I've kind of done over the last 3 or so is get a couple of edges down, and then, because my goal is ultimately just to get this thing pinned down as best I can and sealed well. And you're going to have, some wrinkling and crinkling on the top necessarily because there's height there, right? So I'm just doing my best to kind of punch out those little bubbles as I go along. And when I get pretty darn close, I feel that's mostly wrapped nicely around the ricotta, and I can tell that I have not burst my egg yolk. I'm going to call that a freaking winner. And then really just get aggressive about punching down my sides so that they don't open up on us. I can live with those wrinkles. I'm sure over time my technique can get a little stronger and look a little prettier. But for right now, first time through, I'm pretty happy with that. All right. And we'll go through and finish those up and get them into the water pretty soon. What's up? All right, so here we have them. There are a dozen ravioli, shrimp, and the rest are egg yolky. We have boiling water. Come on over, Dee. She's all boiled up. We're gonna dump these guys in for 1.5 minutes, so we're gonna move quickly here. Ooh, they're already floaty. Really exciting. The ratio of pasta to boiling water is pretty big. I like a nice big pot to boil in here and let these guys float. All right, come on in. We've got 20 seconds left. I'm gonna go ahead and kill it and start to pull these guys out. I'm gonna try to get them a couple at a time. I'm gonna use my spider strainer thing here. And maybe in the smartest thing I've ever done in my life, I'm putting these on lightly buttered trays so they don't get stuck. And I think that's going to help us quite a bit. They're going to keep cooking, obviously. I just don't, I hope we don't overcook the yolks. We want a nice runny yolk. So I'm hopeful on that front. All right, we'll strain the rest of these guys out and see you guys in a minute. All right, in 2 separate pans, what I have going here, I've crisped up the pancetta and use that pancetta fat to take care of some shallots and some white wine, and I've reduced them to nothing. Now we're going to create a little emulsification. I've got 1 cup of pasta water. We're going to divide half and half, and then we're going to do, say, a couple tablespoons of lemon juice each. So lemon and pasta water, and then we've got about 2 tablespoons of butter each. And we're going to do some dancing now to create a little bit of a, I'm going to turn the heat down. It feels a little high on each side, but butter always creates that emulsification. So that's what we're looking for. We're creating a little pan sauce for the raviolis in order to finish them there. And then we're going to try to get 6 of these guys in per pan. That's going to be a tight fit, but we want to get them swirl it around in our little pan sauce. So I'm going to go this style. 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we're going to go a little bit lower heat so that we can swirl that around. Here we go. We're gonna plate these guys. We're gonna do 3 per plate. And that'll finish one of our pans. Gonna make sure, oops, that's a shrimp, that's Kelly's. We're gonna go pure egg, and that's a shrimp too. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. Challenges everywhere. We want 3 egg here. Why don't we get Kelly's plated as well on the shrimp side. There's a shrimp, there's a shrimp. And let's grab her other shrimp over here. There we go. Because what I want to do is get these out of the heat so that I don't overcook my egg yolks, because we want a nice runny egg yolk. But check it out, that's pan sauce, baby. So we want that in the mix. And then we want to, hey Cal, come in here. Finish with a little parsley. Hey Kelly. There she is. All right, let's go for the money shot. So Kelly has her shrimp ravioli here. Dylan has his egg yolk. Dylan, let's just go to the test and see what happens. It's egg yolky. They were small egg yolks. Go ahead, dude. Take a bite. Take a bite. See what you think. There's more egg yolk in there, by the way. Yeah, don't you think? All right, take a bite, kid. See what you think.
It's freaking amazing. I'm not even kidding. That's delicious.
Yay! All right, hey, ladies and gentlemen, you can keep eating, G. Kelly, come over here.
Cut one more. Just
Okay. Go again. Look for the plumpest one so we can cheat a little bit.
What would it like?
Give us a nice runny egg.
There we go.
There it is. We did it at last.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Okay, so hey everybody, thanks for hanging in there with us. I'm serving dinner. It's 6 o'clock sharp. It's very important to me to always serve dinner at 6 o'clock and no leave and no later It's important for your families to serve dinner at 6. So I hope you guys enjoyed Uovo Raviolo or egg yolk ravioli.
Enjoy it.
Sorry, Dylan's enjoying it. It looks good. People are hungry. Dylan's devouring.
Okay, get out of the shot.
Okay. All right, guys. I hope you liked this episode. We're pretty goofy at the end here. I apologize. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Hit notifications. Please check out the other videos. I'll keep making them more if you like them. And that's that. Have a good night. Thank you.